Hey guys, welcome back. So today I'm going to do a reaction to My Parents Are Aliens, which is a British children's TV sitcom that aired for 8 seasons on ITV. It follows the lives of three orphaned children, Mel, Josh, and Lucy Barker, who get adopted by Brian and Sophie Johnson, who are actually aliens who crash landed on Earth from the planet Valox. Brian and Sophie have trouble adjusting to the local culture, and so this series follows their journey while Mel, Josh, and Lucy try to get accustomed to having aliens for parents. So that's just a brief overview of what the sitcom TV show is about. Grace hasn't seen it, but I have spoken about it a few times. So, yeah. So I'm just going to give you my reaction on the whole sitcom and why I think you guys should check it out if you haven't already. And if you have, drop this comment down below with your thoughts. And I'm going to get started now, but please make sure to give this video a like and subscribe. So why did I start watching it? It's just one of those things again where you just put on the TV, and this was after school, I put it on and popped up on ITV, and it seemed really interesting. Like, it was a bit weird. Like I was a bit confused at what was going on, but yeah, it was amazing, and actually really thankful that at that moment, at that time, I decided to put the TV on, and it was on there. Those I would have never found it because no one really talks about it. It's something that's quite old. When did I? Oh, I didn't say. I think it was from like the late 90s. I think I can't really remember, but yeah. So one of the things I really like about the sitcom is the characters, and it's too hard for me to say who my favorite character is because there are just so many memorable characters, and they really make the sitcom the sitcom. It's probably much more easier for me to say who I didn't like, and even then, I seriously can't think of anybody I didn't even like. I pretty much love them all, but if I had to pick, it would be Brian. He's just really funny. He reminds me of, if you've seen Malcolm in the Middle, he reminds me of Hal, the dad. And he's sort of stupid as well. Like Mel finds him annoying, Josh finds it easy to manipulate him to get his help with various like money making schemes, because that's what Josh wants. He wants money. And I love the fact that Lucy and Brian bond over science and maths, and CJ and Brian play together. Like he just fits really perfectly. He like, and yeah, he also has very little concept of morality, and that sometimes creates a very difficult situation. Like, such as like if you guys remember, and if you're new to this, then there was that time when he treated Sophie as a slave, and he couldn't see why it wasn't wrong. So it's also quite educational. I'm thinking about it, it's quite educational as well. But at the end of the day, he really does care for his family. He loves them, and he can be selfish, and yeah, but he actually does sometimes tries to act helpful. Like he tries to help Josh, even though he doesn't really understand what he's doing. So that also leads to problems. And I guess that is why he's my favorite. What I also love is the fact that Brian and Sophie morph, which is amazing. And the times when they morph into their adopted children, into like Mel and Josh and Lucy, are hilarious, because sometimes wondering, is that Lucy? Is that Josh? So yeah, that is amazing. I'm gonna move on to Sophie. So we had two Sophies in this sitcom. We had the blonde haired Sophie and we had the red haired Sophie. And yeah, in what happened is basically she sort of couldn't morph back, and so she remains the redhead Sophie. And I have to say, do you prefer the redhead Sophie? Guys, let me know down below if you prefer the blonde haired Sophie, the original Sophie. But yeah, she's very different from Brian. She has more common sense, but she's still clueless. I mean, they literally crash landed on a planet and they have no clue what's going on because they're aliens, right? But she really loves her kids and she really tries to please them, and yeah, sometimes she tries to get really close to them, and that just leads to more problems, which But yeah, thinking about that, how about the time she read Mel's diary and she actually ended up pushing Mel further away after Mel finds out because it's an invasion of privacy. But yeah, talking about Mel, I'll talk about Mel now. So she's the oldest of the Barker siblings, and she's very sarcastic and she's very protective towards her siblings since the death of their parents. And her attitude is basically just she's like putting up that wall because of that pain from losing her parents and also moving through different foster homes because the other two are quite young still. So they don't really understand it as much and they don't feel it as much. But as the older sibling as well and having to look after the younger ones. Yeah, and yeah, because of that, she acts quite tough, but she also gets quite emotional too. Like we see that, for example, like when she discovers that one of her mum's old lipsticks went missing. And she's best friends with a guy called Trent who really sticks with Mel, even when she's being annoying or stubborn or absolutely horrible to him. And I absolutely love Trent because he's an amazing character. Again, sorry, guys, how many times I've said amazing and just let me know down below because I've said it too many times already and I'm not nowhere near finishing. But yeah, it was really cute when they actually get romantically involved. And also, just talking about Trent, I love the fact that in the series later on, we learn that Trent's Scottish accent isn't even real because the whole show, until like the last season or something, he talks with a Scottish accent, and then all of a sudden he's just English Trent, and it's like, so yeah, that was really cool. But yeah, on to the next sibling, Josh. Now, Josh is a very interesting character, and it's crazy that every single episode there's some sort of storyline that he feeds into because would have really thought there wouldn't be like there couldn't be more and more and more, but it really is. So he's the middle child and he's devious and he's constantly scheming. Like he comes up with these new scams to make money and he ropes in Sophie and Brian into them because, you know, they don't understand what on earth is going on. And even his best friends, Frankie and Pete. And yeah, his relationship with Mr. Whiteside is really funny. Mr. Whiteside is, well, I'm going to talk about him, but he's one of the teachers at the school that the kids go to. But yeah, and I've also got to mention Poppy too, because he has this weird relationship with Poppy. And Poppy is a girl in Lucy's class. And no, there is no romantic attraction. They are literally like rivals. And he's literally, well, they both have this war each other. It's just really funny because you never expect someone like that. But yeah, Josh is a really cool character. Yeah, I'll say who's my favorite Barker sibling at the end because probably makes more sense after I've talked about Lucy. So she's the youngest and she is very smart. She gets on very well with Brian, like I said before, because you know they've got that science bond because he's quite a bit of a scientist and you know she is, and they play chess together, they do experiments together. And she's got a best friend called Wendy, who is also a genius, and they actually compete with each other. Well, Wendy competes. Well, they both compete actually with each other, like trying to get to that top of the class. That's literally what the goal is, like to get to the top of the class. They don't want to lose a mark of their test or anything. They want to get that 100%. So, yep, she is very determined. And that's because she has this dream of becoming an astronaut, and she's very fixed with this. Like she starts preparing for this really early on, like when she's like a little kid and stuff. It's so what I really like about this sitcom is that we get to see the development from when they're really tiny to like when they're like growing up and eventually till the end of the series sitcom sort of the season that they left, which I'll talk about a bit later. But yeah, she's often the one who actually tells Brian and Sophie like what's going on, like what's wrong, like what are they doing wrong? Because like I said, they literally don't have a clue what is going on. Yeah, which one's my favorite? I think it might have to be. I don't know. It's just really difficult. I was gonna say it was gonna be Mel, and then I was like, no way, it's gonna be Lucy, and then I was like, no way, it's gonna be Josh. Guys, I want to hear who your favorite is. Is it Lucy, Josh, or Mel? Because I can't decide. I think CJ was also adopted. He's not like related to them, like blood related, but he's part of the family. I think he might be my favorite though. So he's basically Brian's sidekick, and I mean that's really actually how he got adopted into the family because Brian wanted someone to play with, and so CJ came along, and I absolutely love their relationship, and I think that's why I really enjoyed Brian as well, like as a character, because you like after Lucy starts to grow up a bit, it doesn't really make sense, anymore, like because she's quite busy with homework and stuff, like she wants to focus on being that astronaut, for that goal. And so having CJ around just made it a bit more like it just kept it going. And yeah, one of the episodes that I remember quite fondly between CJ and Brian was the Holy Grail quest that they both went on. That was an amazing episode, guys. Check it out if you haven't. And if you guys already know what I'm talking about, then let me know down below what your favorite episode is, because that was one of mine. So talking about the teachers, there was Mrs. Hardman and Mr. Whiteside. So Mr. Whiteside is that really grumpy teacher that, you've got at your school. You're probably thinking about your own grumpy teacher that you got at your school. And he absolutely hates Josh. And we also get to see this really funny relationship play out between them two. And what makes it even funnier is that Sophie has a crush on him, which was weird because she's married to Brian. But it was funny too, especially like when she invites him over for dinner, like that episode when she invites him over for dinner and Brian locks him up in the bathroom and morphs into Whiteside to get Sophie's affection. So he's literally pretending to be Whiteside. So yeah, Mrs. Hardman is Lucy's favorite teacher, and she also dislikes Josh. There was this scene, I don't know if it was child appropriate, but I watched it with these really young eyes at a really young age, whenever, I can't remember when, of a scene where she was dancing in a classroom with a chair. I don't think I need to say anything more. Dancing with a chair. It was, now thinking about it, it was absolutely hilarious. But for any little kids scarred out there, I'm here. I understand because it was it's not something you expect from a kids thing, but yeah, a teacher was dancing with a chair in a sitcom for little kids.
Can I ask how he was dancing? Or
I think you can imagine how she was dancing.
Yeah.
I think yeah. But yeah, just talking about all these characters, I think it just goes to show that they really do add to the show, and they're the ones who actually make it alive and like make it funny. So yeah, I did say before I'd try and say who my least favorite character is. I don't hate her, but I just never really felt that sort of like connection that I feel with like Lucy, Mel, and Josh and CJ, and so it's Harriet, or Harry as she preferred to be called. So she was the replacement for Mel when Mel, like the character, the actress, I think Danielle, I can't remember her name, but she left the show for a little bit, I think for education and stuff. So yeah, I just didn't really like Harry. Like I just wish they never tried to replace Mel, because it just didn't feel the same. Like they tried to make it seem like as if Mel was still around, but just with Harry, but it didn't work. Tons of different moments from the show. I think I'm probably going to do a top 10 like best episodes sort of thing. But just for the sake of this, so I don't go on for too long, because I probably might have already gone too long, and hopefully someone's still listening out there. I've picked one episode, which was one of my favorites. It was the Halloween episode from season 6, episode 4, if you want to check it out. It's called Josh Ferratu. Don't know how to say it. Season 6, episode 4. So here we go. I'm gonna tell you what happened. So Brian gets scared by Joshua's fangs and decides to take precautions so he doesn't become one. So he dreams about getting bit and he becomes a vampire, as he doesn't realize that it was a dream. And he even sleeps in a coffin, transforms the whole house into his vampire lair, and then he decides to target Mr. Whiteside as his first victim to get blood. So, so he goes first to Mr. Whiteside's house, who is snuggling a pillow with Kate Winslet, because Mr. Whiteside loves Kate Winslet. That's the woman who played. That's the actress who played Rose from Titanic. So he loves Kate Winslet, and he ends up frightening both himself and Whiteside. And then he tries to scare Trent, but Trent ends up scaring Brian by pretending to be a vampire. And then Brian tries again to scare Mr. Whiteside at the school, this time by being a bat. And he ends up scaring Josh and his friends. So what I liked about this one, it was really nice just getting to see like a Halloween episode, but also the fact that poor Brian was just so scared because Josh was like just wearing fangs just for Halloween and stuff. And Brian actually thought that Josh was a vampire. And so that's why he thought he became a vampire because he dreamt that Josh bit him. So, but yeah, it was just funny just getting to see that comedy between Mr. Whiteside and Brian because that was amazing. But yeah, that was one of my favorite episodes, guys. I want to hear about yours if you've got one, and if you haven't watched the show, then you really need to. After you've watched it, come back and leave me a comment with what your favorite episode or moment or character or whatever. But yeah, I'm gonna try and really sell it to you now, the show, if I haven't already, which I hope I have because I've been talking for very, very long. But yeah, what I liked about the show was that each character had like a different personality, even though there were so many different characters, they all had a different personality. And even though, sometimes Mel gets annoyed, Joshua's schemes fail, and Lucy struggles, they still really value Brian and Sophie. Though they rarely say anything, like, oh, I love you, and that sort of thing. And I really just loved Sophie and Brian. Brian especially. They're just a pair of nutty aliens who are so funny. Like, when we think of aliens, we think of the weirdest stuff. But these aliens, their power is basically to morph. So they can literally morph into whoever they want to be, or animal. And I also love the fact that they actually tried to make an effort, trying to fit in, trying to be there for the kids. Like, they're very supportive, even though most times when they try to be supportive, they aren't really being supportive because they don't know what on earth they're doing. Yeah, there was also another episode like that Julius Caesar episode, and that episode was amazing because it was like, because they went back to Rome and stuff. Like, it was like a Rome-centered episode. And so Brian thinks that CJ is Julius Caesar because of the initials. There's JC, and he's flipped it and he was like CJ. So you see how weird it is. Like, Brian, like, who would ever think of that? But Brian thought of that because he's crazy. Yeah. Talking about what I did not like about the show, I didn't like the fact that after season 7 they actually tried to revive it with a new set of kids, making season 8, because there is 8 seasons. I tried one of the episodes from season 8 and I just couldn't, because it was a whole new group of kids and stuff. Mel, Josh, and Lucy, and Harry, and CJ, they all left after season 7 because that was the end of their saga, their part, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I just couldn't get into it. So I wouldn't recommend season 8, but perhaps someone might like it. I think it just goes to show it's another one of those things where you just can't beat the original. I also heard that they were going to do something similar in the US, like My Parents Are Aliens, like but a US version, but I don't think it happened. But let me know down in the comments below if it actually did, and if I'm maybe wrong, because I could be wrong. I remember hearing something about it, and I was thinking, no, It's like that whole Office thing. Like I haven't watched The Office, but it's the whole Office thing, right? Like you've got the UK and the US version. It'll be like that. So just keep it UK. Though I haven't seen the show, so don't shout at me if you're someone who really does prefer the US version. Though I've heard a lot of people say the UK version is better, but you know, it's between us two. So similar shows. I mean, I've already mentioned Malcolm in the Middle, and that is a sitcom. Very funny. One of the it might be in my top. It is in my top 10. I was gonna say, is it in my top 5? I don't know. I've really got to think about that.
Ooh.
But yeah, it's also about a family. It's about a boy called Malcolm who's very smart and lives with his dysfunctional family while dealing with the troubles of being the middle child and a teenager. And I will have a review coming out soon. I'm still not sure if I will do a spoilers review or a non-spoiler review, or maybe I'll just do a 10 episode ranking sort of thing. But yeah, I highly recommend it, and I've watched the whole series like 3 times, and I only started watching it last year, so that's crazy because there's like 6 seasons, I think. So yeah, it's just really funny. But yeah, the usual question, I like to finish off reactions with is, what 3 words would you use to describe this show?
I was literally going to ask you that.
Oh, sorry, Grace. You gotta describe that question. Mine's gonna be hilarious because it was absolutely hilarious. It's something I still watch to this day, and it's just nice, Like even though it is for kids, like it's one of those things. I think I've said this before. It's like the Looney Tunes, like something that you wouldn't necessarily watch right now, but you should because it's amazing. And even though it's for kids, watch it. It's strange because, I mean, you just never know what's going to happen. And the last one is like literally what just Grace said, aliens. So yeah, I really do hope I sold the show to you because it is amazing, and yeah, the characters are amazing. Like I don't even know what else to say. It's just an amazing show.
It does remind me of another certain show that has aliens in it, not largely involved, but is in it. It's called Danny's House. It's like aliens spying on this woman's life and just looking through her life. That is quite funny and quite dramatic and all that. But yeah, this show kind of sounds really interesting. Like, can I ask, how does the kids know that the parents are aliens? And if they do, when did they find out? Like, have they always known from the beginning, or?
Yeah, they pretty much find out straight away because when
you have to know if.
Because I mean, we don't see it at the first episode, but there's a flashback like in season 3 maybe or something, and I remember from there, like they just kept changing the rooms because they can change the house and stuff because the house is their spaceship, so they can literally change it. And so they made Josh's room like bigger and smaller, and they also left them like a dog bed and stuff to sleep in because they weren't aware that we have like there's human beds. So from there they were a bit suspicious because I mean, who would leave a dog bed for like 3 kids to sleep in? And yeah, I'm pretty sure there was like a little water bowl as well from memory, but maybe I'm making that up. So they were a bit they found out from there.
And what was I gonna ask? Like, you said the aliens crash landed in the place. So, like, did they ever talk about like getting home, or was there like any more alien contacts in this show?
Well, that episode I was talking about, that flashback, that was an episode where they had the choice of whether to go back home or to stay, and they decided to stay because they wanted to help the kids because they knew that if they left, the kids would go back to they'd have to keep being fostered or they'd stay in the orphanage or something. But that is where season 7 and season 8 came to play, because season 7 at the end, the kids Oh, it's too hard to explain. I'm not going to explain the whole thing because that'll be a spoiler. But at the end of season 7, Brian and Sophie do leave to go back to their home planet. But season 8, they crash again. So that is how they got a new set of kids and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, don't watch season 8, guys. Skip it.
Also, one more question. Like, would you ever like the show to be remade again? Like with like similar storyline with like different faces? Or would you like the show to be continued with the same cast and not like season 7?
The thing is, if it was to be continued now, all those kids, so Lucy, Josh, and CJ, Mel, like they're not kids anymore. They're even older than us at this point.
No,
So
but
it'd be a bit weird.
So would you rather have it be we like the title change to like my grandparents are aliens?
That's a good idea. I'm not mad at that. Yeah, I could see that. But truthfully, I think it was good. I think it was good where it was at. I think it's one of those ones that I wouldn't want them to reboot it because that would be literally like, what is the I'm not a massive fan of reboots. So I'm quite happy with it how it is, but I do quite like the idea of having my grandparents aliens. But I'm pretty sure like after this, all of the kids and most of them, like they've stopped acting. I think the only one who keeps acting is Brian, the guy Tony Gardner, I think. I think he was actually, I think I remember hearing something. He was in a Death in Paradise episode at some point, I think from memory, but I'm not 100% sure. So, but yeah, definitely noted the reboot, and I could see them do a spin-off, but I don't think it would happen like in a million years. Would you maybe watch it?
I'll definitely try the first episode and see what I like. It definitely sounds like it's up my alley. When I was young, because I was quite into strange, weird stuff, like Sarah Jane Adventures and all that. So yeah, I'll definitely give it a try.
Okay, guys, so that ends my reaction for My Parents Are Aliens. Really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I've convinced some of you to watch it again, or perhaps give it a try. And I hope I haven't made it too spoilery. I don't think I have. But you can still watch it. Like nothing big has been said. But yeah, please do give this video a like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our videos, especially for when future reactions, future reviews, future pranks, future debates, future everything that we do comes out, you will get a little notification. So very important. And yeah, really hope you enjoyed this one. So make sure you leave a comment down below as well. And we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.